fly up here and put on a parka and get in a van and drive around the stinking state. I don't think
go
I'd
ice
do
fishing.
it. Yeah, go ice fishing. I can't believe you guys do that. I think you guys do. You have an excellent PR department. You're great with media relations. You're great with outreach. You're great with fans. Your president is, indefatigable. He's always out there. He's willing to communicate with people on Twitter. I mean, and the other organizations in town just don't do all of that. Each of them have maybe their strengths, but they don't do all of that. So I think you guys do a lot of fan outreach that's very effective in presenting your best side. The tough thing for you guys is that there is a diehard sports fan who only cares about winning, and if you don't win, they're going to look for the most simplistic answer possible, and that is, okay, you're cheap, you didn't spend money, you didn't, and that's a tough thing for me. It's like here I am sitting here. I would love to see sign Nelson Cruz and Cody Allen. I actually wasn't joking about that, but usually I'm the person saying, hey, if you go back and look at the history of free agency, most of these people do not perform to their contractual level. They end up being albatrosses. They end up not helping the team perform as well as it was. So I'm just not the person who's going to tell you that spending another $30 million a year is as you said earlier, a panacea.
Yeah, and I think that you have to look at that as, I agree with you, Jim. Like there's an element of free agency that's complementary to your team, no doubt, and that's important. But I think when I look at the teams that are charging toward division titles and then eventually putting themselves in a position to win a World Series, they're doing it around a core of talent that's been developed internally. That's a big part of growing your organization over time. That is typically young talent, guys that are a big part of that. I watched the Red Sox this year and watched guys like Mookie Betts and Andrew Benintendi and some of that group really take that team to another level. Now, additions around that are valuable, certainly, but I feel like for us, our growth is going to come from the improvement of what we have internally, and we need to focus our efforts and energies on that side of things. Now, I get when some people hear that, they think, well, that means you're not focusing your efforts on free agency. And that's just not the case. But I know that we can't go and sign a player quite as good, as what we think Miguel Sano and Byron Buxton and Max Kepler and the combination of all those guys can be if they take the steps forward we think they can. And I'm excited about that. I'm an eternal optimist, around players. I really am. And I think that every guy can get better if they put the right time in, the right investment, and they find the right strategies. It's not just work ethic. All those guys have work ethic, but I think it's important to find the right strategies.
And, back to the free agency thing, I also find it very interesting. In this market, the 87 and 91 teams were farm system teams that were augmented by some key trades.
Yep.
And then maybe that last-minute free agent. I mean, Chili Davis and Jack Morris, I don't know, they might have made a combined $2 million in 1991.
Right.
It was just this easy signing of these guys who were just sitting there. They're obvious. And also, I'm not sure the fan base knows, and Andy, sorry for telling people this, but I think you guys went after Kirk Gibson and Mike Boddicker, missed, and ended up with Jack Morris and Chili Davis, and you win the World Series. Right. That's how funky this stuff can be.
That's reality sometimes too, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes you get lucky in the way it all works out. Yeah.
And then the teams in the 2000s, which I've never had more fun in my life than covering those teams, those were farm system, but really mostly Terry making genius trade after genius trade. I mean, how many guys did he trade for who were A-ballers who ended up being mainstays or all-stars or guys you flipped again for somebody like Joe Nathan? So I don't like the obsession with free agency, even though I think you should go sign Nelson Cruz right now.
Well, there are good complementary parts out there, and I wouldn't argue with you there. But it's it's certainly a focus on trade for. It's hard when you trade for those young players because typically you're trading someone who's been on your team for some period of time, and there's a connection in your market from your fan base to everybody with that player. But then you look up a few years later, and that's a good part of it. And I grew up in an organization in Cleveland that a lot of the current players that are big parts of that team were traded for when they were in A-ball or AA or AAA. So the genius trades that you're talking about that Terry made, like absolutely, that's a path to getting the types of talent you need. So we need to be focused on that at times, even though sometimes it can be difficult.
Thanks for all your time, Derek. I appreciate it. Looking forward to spring training and this season. And just text me as soon as you have Nelson signed.
Will do, Jim.
Yeah, oh yeah, what condition